We all been through suffering and pain, and I met Sophie and tried to understand what she's going through. Eating disorder is something that has been plaguing many of us, especially here in this country. I've seen so many of them going through this pain and suffering. When I heard Sophie's story, it just touched my heart, and this is something that I want to share with you. Especially the time when she went to her mother and she said, "Mom, I'm scared of food."
At the age of 11, I changed schools to a school I knew wasn't right for me, to a boarding school that I wasn't really meant to go to. And I'd already moved 3 houses, and I was quite confused about life. And I said to my mother when she came to my confirmation, which in the Anglican faith is something that young children do. They get confirmed, and I decided I wanted to get confirmed. And when she came for the Exeat weekend, which funny enough, she wasn't going to come. We were moving to Spain at that time, and I was in England and she was in Spain, but I decided I wanted to get confirmed. And she came that weekend, and I said, "Mum, I'm scared of food." And she sort of tried to take it on board, and as any mother, I mean, I'm a mother of 3, I don't think you're prepared for that type of comment. And so she was a bit shocked, and obviously she wanted to help me, but she didn't really know how. I think obviously she had had similar issues, so it was a sort of mirror image of her worst nightmare hitting her in the face. And that was my first realization that, the body meant pain for me.
Sophie's journey started when she discovered her inner talent. The connection between the physical pain, the joy, and the spiritual connection. But she was never in denial.
I'm a singer, so I knew I had a very strong spirit. When I was 7, they detected that I was a soloist singer. And so I took that as a sign that something divine was coming through me, because you don't pick up a voice. You can't just strum a guitar or play the piano. It was something otherly for me. So I then started this journey of trying to rectify what people saw outside, and the persona that I was giving off outside as this sort of comedian I'd become, trying to fit into boarding school and different cultures, with the pain I had inside. And the physical pain and the outside joy that I was giving off weren't connecting, but there was clearly something very spiritual in me because of my voice. So that really got me started, I think, on a journey of healing from a very young age. I was never in denial about the challenges. I just started to try and work with them, and that started my healing journey. I'm now 48. I think I'm getting somewhere, but it's not been easy, but it's been an amazing journey. It is an amazing journey. It won't ever end. It will be with me till the day my body leaves this earth. I think I needed something to control in a world which felt overwhelming and out of control. And as a very sensitive person, I felt there was too much stimulus for me. And so it came back to controlling my body, the pain, and the food. And I think there was something in it which was trying to say, I'm not okay. I need help, but I don't know how to tell you what help. And I know I need to try and find the answers within. And I think to cut a long story short, with all, I've had a long journey. I was followed by, many different specialists from all sorts of fields, from the medical field and the non-medical field. And I think I've reached a point now where we really have to become our own responsible voice and take ownership from the voice in our head and know which voice we listen to and which voice we don't listen to. And I think it's the same probably with everything, not just the eating disorder. I think it's with the negative bias, with negative thoughts, with blaming it on other people, with the victimization that we can develop as human beings. I've reached a conclusion that I had to find the answers. Only I could be responsible for putting food in my mouth or not food in my mouth, and for thinking my thoughts. And whilst the thoughts would come, I needed to then police the thoughts. And I was listening to something very interesting the other day, which I'd like to share, which is, if your thoughts, your actions, and your intentions are aligned, you can reduce anxiety because you're being consistent. You're not hiding something. You're authentic. So those are my learnings now, and it's still new for me. Okay, I really the fear of food and the fear of big meals and the fear of what people will say is not entirely gone, but it's not nearly as bad as it was. What happened though is that a doctor would give you a solution and you would want to do your best to implement that solution, thinking that was going to heal you. And then something else would come along, or, and then it kept being triggered by the similar situations or similar emotions of anxiety or stress or not knowing or doubt or not feeling worthy. For me, there's been a lot of, despite the perceived confidence I could have, which is very much spirit driven, there's been this deep, deep root of a lack of self-worth. And it's a strange one because I have the most beautiful family. I have the most incredible children and husband. I have my family, my immediate family, my extended family are incredible, all of them. And my friends, I have exceptional friends. So it's a misnomer to me that I can feel this lack of worthiness when the mirror of the friendships I have is just so beautiful. I have beautiful friendships, which somewhere down the line must mean, and I'm trying to integrate this, that, that's what I see in people and that's what I want for people. But there is this part in my head, which is the eating disorder. It's the destructive side, which is you're not thin enough. That's going to hurt you. It's your fault. Why are you still not over this? Don't pass it on to your children. Are you making your husband unhappy? A guilt, which for a lot of my life just wanted me to isolate. I wanted to be in my own corner, managing my food or no food, and just get on with my job. When it came to being all the different roles that one plays, and we do play roles, but we can still be the same person. But we have our different roles, as Shakespeare said. We're all on the stage of life, and I wanted to be the same integral Sophie, but as a mother, it's different when your children are reflecting something to you than when it's your husband, than when it's a colleague, than when it's a friend, than when it's all of that. I'm quite cerebral and I intellectualize a lot and I analyze a lot, and I wanted to understand. I read a lot of the philosophers. I read a lot of I've really looked a lot at all of the different religions, and I've come to the denomination and the conclusion that they're all leading to the same spirit, and that spirit is what comes through us, and we channel that. And I know that I think the eating disorder was a spiritual cry for help of how do I live in a body, mind, and spirit, and find a balance between all three. And I'm still on that journey, Tom. I'm not going to say I'm there. Yeah, it's a daily decision.
In Sophie's quest, she went seeking all kinds of help, and one of the steps that really helped is a 12-step program. Let's hear it from her.
Well, I did all the medical things just to be scientific and practical and see results printed out so that my brain wouldn't play tricks on me. I found dietitians tough because the anorexic mind or the eating disorder doesn't necessarily want to implement what they want you to implement. So I wasn't very good at that. I did go to rehabilitation in Arizona. That's not open to many. It's extremely expensive and a huge privilege that I was able to do that. Did it help me? Yes, I was in the 12-step program for many, many years. The thing about the 12 steps is that, now I would only say good things about it, and I think it helps many. The challenge is that when it's a sort of generalized eating disorder, it's quite tough, because if it's alcohol, you can live without alcohol, you can live without drugs, you should really. Whereas with food, you're not meant to live without food. And the anorexic side of the eating disorder, not the other dimensions of them, and there are so many denominations now of eating disorders. Mine was much more on the restrictive anorexic side, more because I had fear of food and pain. And I suppose I didn't really like being incarnated. I didn't like being sort of matter, but that I can't just be spirit, because then you couldn't see me unless I was just singing, I suppose. So the help that the 12 steps gave me was valuable, but you're meant to give up sugar, then you're meant to give up this, then you're meant to give up that, and then you need to report into a sponsor, and it's all very structured, which I suppose the brain needs. But after a number of years, I realized that I think at each stage I realized when I could graduate from that stage, and I needed to move on to something else. So I did do the normal. I was taken out of school and I'd go and see an eating disorder psychiatrist, and he would measure my bone density and my weight. I'd never look at my weight. I never looked at the scales. I didn't want to know. Then I would go, I didn't want to have a fight with calories or the scales. And if there's any advice I can give people with eating disorders, don't ever look at the scales and don't ever count calories, because your brain will play tricks on you. Then I never got obsessive about exercise. The only reason I do exercise now is because obviously the brain that is wired is an anxious brain and a depressive brain, and anxiety is looking ahead to the future, and depression is regretting the past, and there's chemical things going on, and I know that exercise helps that. And my brother has been very significant in that, and my parents died sad deaths, and as the sensitive being that I am, I take trauma badly, and I that helped. My husband and my brother, my sister-in-law, so many people, I'm incredibly supported. But that really made me realize that for me, sport now has become very important every day. Half an hour, I don't do more. I know that I could become compulsive in sport, but I'm not going to. It's just a hygiene thing for my brain and my body.
Do you know, one of the biggest problem when it comes to eating disorder is many of us think that it is our fault. But then Sophie had something different to say.
It's not your fault. I would really deeply like to say that. I think the reason that some mechanism kicks in to create an eating disorder is for survival. The challenge is, because of the view of the external world or the concern of people, there's a guilt and a lack of worthiness already going on because the behaviours are strange. What I would say is that once you move out of the denial of non-acceptance, it's very, very hard to help somebody, or for someone to help themselves if they don't think they have a problem. The minute they understand that their relationship with food as a means of control, as a means of manifesting some emotion which has got stuck, or a situation that they can't control, then you can start to notice where things are probably not working as they should be. As I said, mine was very linked to a stomach pain. And so that became my sort of quest. How am I going to get rid of this pain? And so in terms of helping people with this disorder, one thing that I do now, and I had done it years ago, but I really do it now, and it's helping me exponentially, is I write each morning. And I write each morning for 12 minutes. And I time how much I write, and I light a candle, and I sit down. It's before the girls are awake, and Charlie's with me, my dog, and I write for 12 minutes. And I write everything that's top of my head, everything that's worrying me about life, about, it can be, it just whatever comes to mind. And then I roll it up and I burn it and I send it out to the universe. Then I write 10 things I'm grateful for. Very simple. 10 things I forgive myself for. And 10 things did I say grateful? I think I said grateful. So 10 things I'm grateful, 10 things I forgive myself, and 10 things I accept about myself. And it's gradually shifting some things.
Welcome to something which is beautiful, and that is meditation. It's a journey. It's a wonderful journey, and which changed Sophie in many ways.
I also would really recommend, it can be 3 minutes or 5 minutes of meditation, whether that's in prayer, whether that's meditation, whether it's walking in nature, whether it's stroking your animal. That 5 minutes can then become more and more, and it makes you aware of everything you're doing. And so I often breathe through my nose, and I ground my feet, and I look at the sky. And those are my sort of touch point elements. So I'm very much thinking my thoughts into my feet. I'm on earth. I'm breathing, so I'm alive, but I breathe through my nose because my brother made me read this book called The Oxygen Advantage. And if you're nervous, you're meant to breathe through your nose. And if you want to become a super athlete, you do Wim Hof and breathe through your nose and your mouth. But anyway, tried them all. Breathing is essential. Getting your breathing right is essential. And then I look up to the sky. We are in a huge world. It's not just me, myself, and I. And eating disorders can bring it all back to the body, and poor me, and woe is me. And I do 3 salutes to the sun every morning, yoga. And then I get on with my day.
We all have love languages. I mean, there's something which was a little hard for me to understand at the beginning, but then Sophie put it very beautifully, and she explained what her love language is. And this is something that even I begin to fall in love with it.
One of my love languages, I don't know if people know about the love languages, but you should look into them, is acts of service. I'm very much acts of service. It gets me out of the selfish side of an eating disorder, or of mankind. I mean, I don't know if it's just the eating disorder, but we can all be all about ourselves. And so I get my daughter her porridge, and I prepare my husband his coffee, and I empty the dishwasher, and I hang out the washing, and I do that with love, because that's running the house. I get my husband his lunchbox, so those are all things that then I take my girls to school. I choose to do all those things. I haven't delegated them, because that's very much my love languages, is helping them. So I think for a long time, it was very much an isolation, and don't get me wrong, it still can be. But I think another message I would say is, look at the doors that open. When people smile at you, when people stop you in the street, when they're little signs of a connection. People want connection, people want belonging. And the unworthiness within me was trying to find that, but I could only really find it with animals, because my animal couldn't talk back. I mean, Charlie talks to me, but animals talk to me. I think people will know that. Animals talk, but I didn't have to explain anything. I didn't have to be accountable. It didn't reflect the bad sides in me I didn't like. So I often felt much more at ease just with my dog and my life at home. It was when people came into the equation, it became much more complicated because we compare ourselves to other people.
Sophie also told me another thing is the problem that I find with many people, that they compare themselves with somebody else. And this is what Sophie had to tell me about herself.
Compare yourself to yourself. Don't compare yourself to others. You'll never be thin enough. You'll never be slim enough. You'll never be pretty enough. You'll never be young enough. I listen to podcasts. I listen to brilliant podcasts. I select them. There are a mix of spiritual ones, intellectual ones, not so many on the eating disorder side now, but I do listen to a few of them. There's quite a rock and roll woman called Tabitha Farrar, but she's quite out there. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and enough is not a measurement. We don't know what enough is. As humans, knowing when you have a disordered compulsion or action, we don't know what a measure of enough is. We're pushing for more, or we want more. And the other thing I heard, it was a really amazing podcast, was desire can be the root of suffering. Because as much as it's wonderful to have desire for things and passion for things, it can lead into destruction. Because again, it links to the wanting more. So, just to close on this point, we live in our own body, mind, and spirit. And if we can't sit on our own with our own body, mind, and spirit and be okay with that, at least for 5 minutes a day, and then you get on with all the things you think make you successful, or make you happy, or make you feel accomplished, or make things meaningful. At the end of the day, it comes down to that. What's our meaning? What's our purpose in life? And that's something I really help my students look at. In fact, that's my teaching method, is around the authentic vocation. What's someone's natural talents? Can they live from that? Can they make money from that? It's not all about money. It's about purpose and meaning. You'll then make money because you love what you do. You're transmitting your core values and what you love and you do, and then you just keep building on that. So, these are things that for me have become essential.